For 24 minutes, the Utah Jazz battled the number one conference seed, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and their number one defense. But in the end, it was just too much as the Wolves defense clamped down in the third. Karl Anthony Towns blew the Jazz out, and the Jazz will come home 0-2 on the trip. We're talking about it next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone for you for Postcast tonight as the Jazz fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves by the final score of 101-90. The game got closer at the end as the Jazz outscored the Wolves 24-17 in the fourth. It was Jazz were down 20 at the largest mark of it. But really, if you look at this game, the Jazz were down 23-20 at the end of one. They stayed in it and were down by just two, or actually down by two at the half, 49-47. And Minnesota's defense was clamping down on the Jazz at that point. The Jazz half-court offensive rating in the first half was a 71, which is league average is about 1 point of possession. I mean, they were way below that, about third percentile. Jazz offense overall was at 98, below a point of possession. So Minnesota's defense, but the Jazz were kind of hanging. They were handling it. Minnesota without Anthony Edwards was limited. And then in the third quarter, it was a little bit of a mix of self-inflicted wounds. John Collins had two really bad handoff passes that led to fast, like what Rick Carlisle called fatal turnovers, where you make the turnover and it leads to a lead-out dunk. And then just some forced shots, but not overall. I actually thought they kind of dealt with what Will Hardy said is the theme of the night, which was how do we deal with adversity pro, but they just couldn't stop the run. They just couldn't stop the run.
Right. They couldn't stop the runs, and the offense, I think, started to the shots was there for the most part. And, you know, there was a couple of times when shots were taking that didn't flow, you know, with the offense. But for the most part, it was all Minnesota. It was all Minnesota in that third period where they seemed like the tempo picked up for them. Karl Anthony Towns starts to get it going after picking up 2 fouls in that first quarter. And it's just the Jazz they just don't have an answer right now.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have Lowry Markin. You don't have Jordan Clarkson tonight. They obviously didn't have Anthony Edwards. But they still have Karl Anthony Towns. They still have Rudy Gobert. They still have Mike Conley. Like, this is the number one seed in the West right now, and I have a feeling they'll probably hold to that all season long. They're that good. They're now at 14-4. But the theme, I think, we haven't heard the Will Hardy press conference tonight, but I'm guessing the theme's gonna be very similar. Like, it's one quarter, it's just getting away, and that's not uncommon for teams in the NBA to have that one quarter where they just gets undone, and the way you stop that is the question. So what are the things, we'll talk about this a little bit, what are the things you have to do to try to stop one of those runs?
Well, the thing is we have to look at what's when those runs are made. I mean, you just say, for instance, you got a starting five out on the floor that's getting the job done, and they're playing defense, and they seem to be doing all the right things. You substitute one guy or two guys. Now the chemistry changes a little bit, and this is what Will is trying to get away from when that chemistry, regardless of who's on the floor, that chemistry stays. And you're running the same things on the offensive end of the floor, and then you can maintain what you've accomplished so far early in the ball game.
Yeah, and there's something, frankly, beautiful about a 48-minute game that, like, you get exposed at some point in time, right? Like, if I'm playing my older brother in ping pong, I don't have an older brother, but and he's way better than me, I want to play for the fewest amount of points possible, right? Because I'm not going to be able to beat him. If we're playing to 21, he's getting me before it's done. We only play to 5. Maybe I can get lucky. He makes a few mistakes, and it's a little bit of that's how this game felt like. Is the sample size expanded, the better team showed themselves. Here's what's interesting about this concept that Will Hardy's bringing up, and I brought it up to him today, and he kind of gave me a hard time. Thanks for reminding me. For most teams in the NBA, Minnesota, if you're Jazz were on a 7-0 run, they just went to Cat 3 straight times. And most teams in the NBA, you have a guy on your roster that the other team's on a 4-0 or 6-0 run, like you're calling a play and getting in the ball. We have two things that make that really difficult. One is we don't have that guy, even when Lowry's out there. You can call a play for Lowry. We don't have Lowry tonight, or maybe to Jordan, but neither of them available tonight. Second thing is we actually don't have a point guard who's used to doing that either, right? So in the flow of the game, suddenly Keontae George, who doesn't really know time and score yet of an NBA game, or Talon or Colin, really Talon, is our backup point guard, have to try to make that same play. And so you're a roster that doesn't have a natural answer, so you're into much more of a set play or a read or something of matchups. with a point guard that doesn't really have a set knowledge on how to do it. It's a tough combination. It's going to yield to some nights like this where you get outscored 35-19 in a quarter.
Yeah, if you can eliminate those runs where you're outscored as much as the Jazz were outscored in that third quarter, 35-19. If you can eliminate those type of outings and stay in the ball game, I mean, to the point, so what if you're down 5, 6, 7 points? You can come back off of those with a couple of good possessions, and all of a sudden you have a basketball game. But you get outscored the way the Jazz did in the fourth quarter. Now you're playing uphill with a team that doesn't have the personnel to, for the most part, play catch up for a whole half and win a ball game.
And I think the Jazz half-court offense in the third quarter, I don't have it exactly, but I think it was about a .44. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think just kind of quickly, they went from .77 to .64, so they probably had to be about, they had to be probably about a .44 in that third quarter to get the number to come down that far. And that's super hard to play defense and hold together throughout a game if your defense is struggling at that level. So, or if your offense is struggling at that level. Simone Fontecchio got 33 minutes tonight. He led the team in minutes played. I mean, he was actually our go-to guy offensively, which may sum up what a mismatch this really was. He had 5 rebounds and 5 assists, but he does continue to battle and show kind of all the things he picked up in his Italian experience as being the man on how to handle this and how to play as the go-to guy.
A solid game for him. A solid game. I mean, 50% from the field. You can tell he's out there on the floor. He's making plays. And again, I'm going to touch on this again. He surprises me with his rebounding.
Yeah.
And he only had 5. What do you have? 5 rebounds, 3 of them on the offensive glass. And I don't know if it's jumping ability because he does go over some guys and trying to get rebounds. But I'm surprised with his maybe his willingness to rebound.
There's a weird one going on. I brought this up on Locked On Jazz today. John Collins continually is getting the worst plus-minus of anyone on our team while usually putting up good lines. He had 12 rebounds tonight. He was minus 17 in his 28 minutes. It's a little weird. He didn't shoot it as well tonight, 3 of 12. Ochai Agbaji got the start. He had 13 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 and 3. 3 of 3 on corner threes, 0 of 3 on above the break threes. Those above the break threes will start falling, but he's now 50% in his career on corner threes. He's about 25% on above the break threes in his career. So that's a little weird, but that will start to fall. Ron, he's kind of been floating in and out of these roles, and I watched him tonight. I thought he had a little bit more of an aggressive March of last year approach to the game than he's had recently.
Well, and I'm sure he's getting talked to tastefully by Will. This is what I want to see. He's talked to Agbaji already about being that defensive player, that aggressive defensive player, that guy that gets under the skin of an offensive player on a basketball team. That's the type of player he wants him to be, but he still wants him to be that solid corner 3 shooter, or whatever, that to the point where they're not sagging off of him to make plays with someone else.
It was interesting tonight to watch the defense of Karl Anthony Towns. So by the end of the night, he got 32 and got going. He hit 4 threes. He got running a little bit, but for a long time, they kind of had they had a good game plan on there, forcing him to his left hand up the top, not letting him get to his right. They were forcing him in the post. He bullied John Collins on a play. I mean, what are you gonna do about that? He's 7'1", you're 6'9". It was interesting to watch them try to defend that because that's their primary defense. And Minnesota offensively this year without Ant had really struggled. They were in the 5th percentile overall and the 0 percentile with both Ant and Towns out. So you were kind of hoping that would be their bugaboo. But Cat got going. What was there anything particular Cat did? Is he just that gifted a player?
He has an inside-outside game. So what are you trying to take away other than the fact that you want him to go into his left hand or something like that? But he's going to try to come back to that right hand. But it's not a. You just hope he has a bad shooting night, and you'd rather see him shooting from the perimeter than you want to see him down in the paint because it's 7 foot and great touch. I mean, he's a great touch from the 3-point line. Yeah.
All right, a bunch of questions in the chat room about Keontae's 4 of 19 shooting. Any concern on that?
No, I don't think right now. If the shot selections are bad, then it would be a concern. I believe this. I don't. It's guy. He has a good stroke. He has a good feel for the game, and as much practice shooting as they do in games. I mean, before games, in practice, and all that kind of stuff. He will probably get better percentage-wise, and I think the shot selection will be something that that would be concerned with coaches if that percentage is bad.
My guess is he's taking a shot that he's never taken before. This little 5 foot, 7 foot runner, he's taking off balance, kind of fading away from the basket while having contact. I'm going to guess he was the best athlete on the floor in every game he's ever played until he got to the NBA, and he was getting to the rim anytime he wanted to get to. And all of a sudden he's learned, like, oh, I actually can't get to the rim here. Like, oh, that's Rudy Gobert. I don't get to the rim here. And so now instead, all of a sudden he's taking this 7 or 8 footer, because his 2-point shooting is really what's problematic right now. His 3-point shooting tonight wasn't great. It was 1 of 6, but he was, I think, 41% in his last 5 games from 3, and he was about 28% from 2. And so this runner is just a shot that he probably hasn't practiced. He probably never knew he was going to have to make in his lifetime, and now it's going to have to become a regular part of his game. And that's the life of being an active rookie on the floor in the NBA.
Come January or even toward the All-Star break, then we'll start judging and engaging by then. And I'm sure he'll definitely get better, especially if the shot selections are good.
All right, stars. Lacey is out there. I've got 1 star that I know. I got 2. Well. I got 2 stars. I'm pretty solid on my stars tonight. Where are you going, Ron?
I'm going with Simone.
And I'm going with Ochai and Simone. So I would agree with you.
That's where I was going as well.
So we agree. Simone and Ochai are the stars of the game tonight. The Jazz fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves by the final score of 101-90. A defensive battle. The number 1 defense in the league holds the Jazz to 38% shooting. Listen to what Minnesota has done in their last 6 games. Jazz to 38, Thunder to 41, Grizzlies to 39. Kings got them. 76ers to 39, and the Knicks to 35%. That is crazy in this day and age. 5 of their last 6 games, they've held someone to 41% or below. They've also won 7 of their last 8.
In the second ball game, the Jazz have scored under 100 points.
Ron Boone, David Locke, this has been your postcast. We'll now send you to the first ever 24/7 YouTube sports channel, Locked On Sports Today. Come your direction. Please subscribe and hit the bell button on Locked On Sports Today to be a part of it. You can hit the bell button on Locked On Jazz as well. Thank you very much.